It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Monday, we are in the home stretch. Gary, how are you?
Home stretch of what?
Of me being able to go back to home and go back
stretch?
to bed. And
go back to home and stretch.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, great vacation, and then we get to yesterday and was up real early. I mean, Sunday morning was up at 3 in the morning, was out doing the bike workout because I got my new lights and everything else.
Yeah, I know we're doing this backwards. How was your vacation?
Good. But so I got all my workout in. By the time it got to 4:15,
yeah,
I was dead to the world. I'm like, this is going to be the greatest sleep. And you always want that great sleep before you get in, before you come back to work after a week to get back into the sleep pattern.
Uh-huh.
So 4:30, I'm I'm gone. Next thing I know, and it's the second time in a month that it's happened. A defective smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector on the ceiling. Starts going off at 7 o'clock, and it's like, okay, it did it a month ago, and I replaced it, and it's doing it again. They say dust and stuff can set those off because I have a separate carbon monoxide detector, in my, right next to my bedroom that's a plug-in, not one that's attached to all the smoke detectors. Mm-hmm. There it is, the 4. It's like, oh, God. Both read 0 carbon monoxide in the air. I got the digital ones.
Mm-hmm.
Got to go out and get the ladder and bring the ladder in from the garage and my boxer shorts and my slippers. Now I got 2.5 hours, so I'm okay. But it was like that just destroyed any attempt to get that quality sleep.
Yeah.
But it's okay because there's so much crap going on where it's like, wow, where do we start? We haven't talked about in our pre-show meeting. Where the hell do we start?
Well, it's interesting because you and I were talking about Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen, who basically said something that I had mentioned a few weeks ago.
Well, he said this a while back.
Then
I think it was a while
we
back.
Said,
yeah.
Then maybe we said it about the same time.
Yeah.
Because I said roughly a month ago, I said the pollsters at some point have to be concerned about their credibility, or they don't. I think if we were in the Obama age, let's say if they had confidence that he was going to win, let's say Obama, we're back in 2008, and Obama's heavy in the polls, and they wanted to make him even heavier, I don't think they worry about that credibility. I think with a Kamala Harris, they don't see any reason to fall on that sword. And I think it's clear now. You're seeing these polls, their accuracy is, we don't know what their accuracy is, but they're all going in one direction. And there is really nothing that's going to change that I can see in the next few weeks. Early voting now underway. Today in our state it begins, and I think I think every state as of today is in early voting. So we're in now. It is the home stretch. Carville said something right before we left. So this goes back about a week and a half. He was talking about Kamala Harris and what she needs to do. And he said, look, you really only have, here's what you have. He talked about, okay, you've got the hurricane. The hurricane's going to take up a few days. You don't have those days. And you've got up until basically the Saturday before Tuesday of the election that you can actually get out there and change something. So that puts us really at a couple of weeks here. And the more she does, the worse it gets. The whole Brett Baer thing. I just walked around going, why? 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 If you're not going to do a press conference, a formal press conference, and she still hasn't done that, why would you sit down with a Brett Baer? What do you think you're going to get? What do you think you're going to win? Do you really, please, somebody, show me internals or anything that shows you or her campaign that sitting down with Brett Baer will get a few Republicans or independents to vote for her. By the way, I did see it, my first Harris sign in my neighborhood. I'll also say this, by the way, just one little frustration from vacation. If I get one more text from Ted Cruz, I'm voting for Colin Allred. I'll do it, Ted. I will do it. You'll still win, but I'll do it. The whole, and you don't need that much money. It's impossible for you to need that much money. So the two neighbors, the two houses in my dad and I had a great laugh at that. My dad said, Elon Musk ponies up $75 million for, it's not obviously for the Trump campaign, but for Trump, the Trump election cycle, you could call it. He's given 75 to the PACs, 75 million to the PACs. That makes him a super donor. The liberal media's losing their mind out of that. And my dad was joking. He goes, I get a call from, because I told my dad that. I said, if I get one more text from Ted Cruz, I'm going to vote for Colin Allred. And the response was, yeah. And he goes, and with Elon Musk donating $75 million, it's hard for me to believe that Trump needs any money. It was weird, just both laughing, but because we're both getting the robocalls and text messages like everybody else. This is the two houses in my neighborhood that I knew, if there were going to be signs for the left, if there were any yard signs, I knew where they would be. So I diverted off course the other day with my wife. I said, I got to check something real quick, and drove by, and sure enough, they did not disappoint. One had a Colin Allred, and then the house next to that had the Harris yard sign, which is fine. That's fine. You're in now. Tell me anything that would be a game changer in this momentum. To Mark Mitchell's point, I don't know how much they are worried about accuracy. I would think, and this was the point I made a month ago, I would think at some point you want to have some credibility for those that have sponsors, big sponsors on board for their polls. Those pollsters, I would think would want to, because as we said, this is your season. This is when you're going to make money. These big elections is when you make that kind of money. This is when you really want to, show that you can do the work. But we're certainly seeing the trend, and I still don't believe the polls. I think the polls in some areas could be actually more in Trump's favor, and we'll get into that later. But I just think right now you're seeing that turn that we've always said it was going to happen around October. And what I believe it was Mitch who said a couple of months ago, he says, watch how the polls, tighten up. And as he's trying to say, and Haley from Trafalgar, a lot of the times is the fact that the polls aren't changing. How the pollsters are doing the polls is what is changing. Because if you look, for example, I think when you look at the analysis of 2020, the analysis of 2020 on the polls is really from the last couple of weeks. They're not taking June, July, August, September, and into consideration. It's the last couple of weeks, and that's when you see all the polls now moving in a certain direction. I think their point they were trying to make is that what they're doing is they want to seem credible near the end. Well, look, we were very close at the end of it. We had it read, but they can, what they believe is, the
politicalization of polls, they can do what they want in July, August, September, do whatever that they believe helps the Democrats. And like I said, those allegations are something that I've never seen to this level.
Right, yeah.
That have been coming. And so I guess we'll see here, 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
But I will say this, I worked out like crazy. I did one night have a shot and a glass of wine. That was it. That was my party.
All right.
And
I had a soda with sugar in it. It was
see,
pretty awesome.
Well, see, that's my heroin.
It was a root beer, yeah.
That would be my heroin.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Low-carb wine?
Yeah.
Wine is sort of low-carb to begin with.
Yeah.
But that's because the vast majority of the time I had a bunch of stuff, contractors, a bunch of stuff I need to get around during the house. And all I did was work out, which means I've been riding my bike, especially at night, since I got the great headlight and the great flashing, looks like an emergency vehicle from the back. And so I love riding at night. It's a completely different experience. So early in the morning or at night before I go to sleep, I'll ride. I've been doing 20 miles at a time. I probably did about 50, 60 miles last week on the bike. And so I go by a ton of houses. And the one thing that I noticed, now I live in a Democrat precinct surrounded by Republican precincts, and don't get angry at me. Don't say, why did you move in there? I moved in first. Everybody came in after I did. I didn't know what it was when I moved in or what it was going to become. About 60-40 Democrats in my precinct, surrounded. I mean, just completely surrounded by red, a little blue dot that I'm in. So the majority of it was there. Have never seen a lot of Trump signs. Didn't see it in 2016. Didn't see it in 2020. See a couple now, but
yeah, we've got a bunch in my neighborhood.
Yeah, we just in my neighborhood just.
I didn't see them. I probably saw one or two. I think in 2020, but I didn't see any in 2016, and they are everywhere in my neighborhood now.
And you've had who was it? The two Senate candidates now that are using the fact that they voted. Was it two Senate? I've got the story here somewhere. Two Democrat Senate candidates that are saying we agreed with Trump here in their ads.
Right.
They want to distance themselves from Harris. They don't mention Harris at all. And one thing I noticed, except for one house, and when I went by the one house, I went, that's somebody who works for the Democratic Party, because it was every sign known. It was almost as if it was a Halloween decoration.
Right.
Every sign known to mankind was on there for every candidate. I'm like, okay, that's somebody that works there. We'll have to throw that one out as an outlier. Every single house. You had a couple with Harris walls, but nobody else. It was amazing the number of people who had like state Senate candidates or Senate for Allred. Nothing, no Harris. I was amazed at how many, because that would be a logical thing here in the state of Texas. If you're going to vote against Ted Cruz, well, then obviously you want to promote that you're voting for Harris. Nope, Allred's running away from Harris.
Well, I found it interesting at those two houses that one had a Harris sign, no Allred sign. The other had an Allred sign, no Harris sign. Yeah, same thing.
Yes.
They would go hand in hand.
Right. You would think they would go hand in hand.
Because, if you're a Democrat, especially in Texas, Ted Cruz is the devil. And if you're a Democrat anywhere, Donald Trump is the devil, right? So you would have both of the opposing side by side, and that wasn't the case. We did spend a few days at an RV park, and it was interesting. This is acres and acres and acres. And there's one part of the RV park where they're like semi-permanent, and these are $1 million RVs. It was incredible. Friday night, everybody was decorated for Halloween. Kids in the street, it was cool. It was great. And I thought, get on the golf cart, drive around for a while. My wife, my in-laws, and we're just driving through. And we drive up there, we drive over, and we start going down these roads. They're huge streets, actually, and it looks like a neighborhood. I mean, you would think you're in a neighborhood. Tons of space and a number of Trump signs. Not one Harris sign, but there were a number of Trump signs. And it's almost, I don't know, what I don't see is the signs of the toxicity of Trump. You know, a lot of people in 2020 supported Trump, didn't want to get engaged in it. You know, they were just going to go vote. They were going to do that. Now the signs of the toxicity are all but gone. That's some of the signs I don't see at all anywhere. And that's a game changer. That means people aren't motivated enough to vote against him. Democrats have to be worried about that right now.
We've got so much to talk about. Great show ahead. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators can save a hefty amount of money by participating in discount fuel networks. If you're leased and your fleet has a fuel optimizer program, use it. Such a program helps plan a trip based on fuel prices and locations in the carrier's fuel network. The larger the carrier, typically the larger the discounts that are possible. Fees for using such networks have become rare thanks to competition for drivers. Owner-operators are well advised, however, to pass up network fuel stops that are too costly, are too far off route, sell inferior fuel, or are dangerously or poorly maintained. For independent owner-operators, a bevy of fuel discount networks exists, from a variety of traditional fuel cards to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies network and the younger mud flap applications discounts at independent truck stops around the nation. Research the options and discounts available to find the right one for you. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio. He is Erik Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow. So, I still, the only thing on my mind, where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? What a horrible last 10 days since we've been gone for the Harris campaign. Very quickly, let's start off with this. I mean, because this is just one of them, but I think she went, Trump's got his surrogates all over the place. Where are my surrogates? Get Bill Clinton out there. Where's Bill Clinton? Let's get Bill Clinton.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they're all properly vetted and that doesn't happen...
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
You had a case...
Exactly. No, so there I am. I'm getting in my truck, right? You know, my alerts are going off, and so we're never really too far from the fire when we're on vacation. And it says, Clinton says the murder wouldn't have happened if there were proper vetting. And I said to myself, which Clinton? That was the headline on the alert, on the push notification on my phone. I said, Clinton, which one? Talk about clickbait. My first question was Bill or Hillary? And it was, but it's like reality is set in, and it's just haunting the Harris campaign at every step, even from her own surrogates. It's just getting worse, and we have 2 more weeks of it.
I know.
Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Running Radio. He's Erik Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Trying to find that headline from Fox before that said Dodgers and Yankees in must-watch World Series.
Is it must-watch? All right. Is it? Is it really?
You know, the one thing, and we deal with this every single day, but when I'm not on the air, I don't know why, it just hits me harder that any little thing that comes out these days, I mean, the hype that exists now. And I was talking about this before we left on vacation, just about, sports, for example. You know, the college football stuff and the insane hype and, the announcers jumping up and down and screaming. I mentioned this is probably about 3 weeks ago, and it was breaking down the NFL and the top teams. And the announcers on there going, and in fifth place, the third week of the season, it's New Orleans. I'm just sure I don't no idea whether it was New Orleans or not. But this incredible scream. And then what's next? Number four in the third week of the NFL season.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, shut up. It's like, it's the overhype on everything that at times I understand why people have rejected the media. All right, you're just hyping everything now. And you see it in politics, any little edge. That's it. Election done.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
I just get a kick out of it. But when I saw that in Fox, Dodgers Yankees in must watch. Oh, I must watch? It's baseball?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But every single thing that Harris could have done wrong, she did. I'm trying to think of anything that she did right or the media did right. Because now what they went to, and it wasn't a surprise, maybe a surprise to someone, the attack on black men, now that it started from the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. What the hell did you expect? Of course that was going to happen.
Yeah.
They practice identity politics. Blacks are supposed to be, you're in this category. Black men, you're in this category.
Right.
You may only react in this way. You are not individuals. You are part of the liberal black Borg, and you must all think together. By the way, Borg is a reference to Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch it, you know what the Borg is,
right.
Where everybody... There's just one mindset that controls all the Borg. They all think the exact same.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you're getting. It's
in
like
modern days, MSNBC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to MSNBC.
All right.
Let's go to Joy Reid.
Why
all right.
Why not?
Wow. You did not know that I had Joy Reid.
No idea.
Right here, ready to go.
Yeah.
He did
Had
not
no
know.
idea.
That. Here
no
we
idea.
go. All right.
Have you noticed how sharply the polls have shifted in Trump's favor over the last couple weeks? With these claims that Trump is surging with black and Latino voters and leading in every single swing state, according to secret internal polls, despite all the Hitler talk. Yes, this race will be far too close. Because unfortunately, we do have a fascist groundswell in parts of this country, mainly among white men, let's be clear, but in small pockets among black and brown men, too.
There you go. Wow.
You must assimilate to the Borg.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, something is wrong with you if you don't think the way we say you're supposed to think. Wow.
I mean,
wow.
It just... it just was amazing that, going after black, and then Obama did the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Basically saying it's misogyny,
right.
That black men are misogynists.
Right.
It's like, wow.
Right. Well, it's their default. It's how they think, by the way. It is, we pointed out, this is how they think. But it's also their default position in any political setting as they analyze anything, well, something is wrong with you if you don't think the way we say you should think according to your skin color. That's something, again, we broke this down years ago. Years ago. This is the basis of who they are and how they think on the left. If you're not in line, something is wrong with you. You're filled with hate because you disagree, because there's any dissent. We've had black callers call us and tell us that their friends and family members sometimes, because they would support a Republican, and their friends and family, saw them as outcasts. And you see it on the left everywhere. But when it starts to break down in the final days of a major election season, of course it's going to be the only tactic they have.
Well, speaking of screaming sports analyst, Stephen A. Smith last week. All right?
Yeah.
And this is Stephen A. Smith on Obama. When I said that earlier, I didn't even think I was going to play in the next 10 minutes the Stephen A. Smith
right.
audio.
Right.
It's just everything's sort of flowing together. When you're off for a week, it just sort of the karma's working
it's
so
all
far.
Going so no, it's all planned.
Yeah.
It's all geniusly planned.
Oh yeah, right.
Right, yeah.
But here he is on Obama and what Obama said about black men.
Before I go any further, I want you to hear exactly what this man had to say.
I'm speaking to men directly now. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. That's not acceptable.
Respectfully, President Obama, what you said is not acceptable. Is it possible that the only reason some black folks may not be inclined to vote, or they may be a bit disenchanted, or dare I say may even be willing to go as far as voting for Trump, is it possible that it's policy as opposed to misogyny, inflation, the cost of living, the price of gas, the price of groceries, that don't matter? Immigration and our borders, and this belief that there's an elevated level of sensitivity towards them, as opposed to black folks struggling, if not starving, in this country. Yes, that plays a role too. When the mayor of New York was talking about $53 million in prepaid credit cards for immigrants who came across our borders illegally and having prepaid credit cards for them. And I said, wait a minute, black folks been starving for years. We ain't get that. You don't think they notice?
There you go.
There you go. Look, we saw this in 2016. After the election, in fact, the day after the election, the Wall Street Journal did a man on the street kind of informal survey of people who live in Harlem, asking the question, why do you think Trump won and Hillary lost? And one of the common threads in the answers was she was talking about things outside this country. He was talking about things here at home. He was concerned about things at home. You said it from the beginning in 2016. I think it was even before convention that you said it. He identified the problem. You have to identify the problem. Well, now, I mean, fast forward 8 years, and you can't ignore the problem. The problems are the reality. It's here. He owned immigration then. He owns immigration now. And when it comes to the economy, it's why people always wanted him to be in the White House. His strongest supporters, he's a businessman. He'll know what to do. And then you see now his history as president, that his 4 years leading up to COVID, there was wealth expansion for everybody. When we talk wealth expansion, by the way, that doesn't mean just people like Elon Musk. It means everybody, because everybody benefits from that. Your spending power increased. And so now you've got this situation where, once again, people are looking at it going, here's what you're not doing. The question I have been asking in my mind as I go around, just trying to put myself in the mind of, I don't know, now the average voter, not the independent, just the average voter, to anybody who's going to run for president. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? She talks in circles. She's never been clear. She's taken a 180 on major positions to sound more like him. Everybody knows she's lying about it, and you can't get away from that. It's like the weird moment, around the holidays with a relative, and then nobody's really saying it out loud. Then the relative leaves, and everybody just kind of looks at each other and says, okay, all right, that didn't go well. This is what now everybody is looking at it going, okay, there's nothing here, there's nothing here, there's nothing here. She can't answer any questions. She really hides from the media. These interviews have been disastrous. Not one formal press conference, and her Veep is even worse.
And then there has been a position change again. Ready for this?
Yeah.
The campaign said, was this yesterday? Okay, I think it was yesterday or Sunday or Saturday. The campaign. Just to be clear, Vice President Harris hasn't said anything that the administration hasn't already said. She is not promoting expansion of fossil fuels. She just said they wouldn't ban fracking. What the hell does that even mean?
Trying to have it both ways.
It's just, this is what you come out with. All right, look, we've got to promote the fact that we're not promoting the expansion of fossil fuels. We just won't ban fracking. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't matter. Just get out there and say it.
And by the way, when they use the word the administration, hasn't said anything the administration hasn't said already. Isn't saying anything the administration hasn't said.
They're saying she agrees with the administration.
Exactly.
Are they worried about the far left? Have they alienated the far left? Is that what they're looking at? Is that why you come out with such a stupid statement?
I think they are, and it's what we have been saying, and I've been saying since not long after convention. They are right now very worried about the down ballot. They are worried about everything. They need the left to get to the polls. I believe they believe she's not going to win, but they're desperate to hold on to everything they can possibly hold on to. And the polls are just moving further and further away from her. This is what it is. The toxicity was there in 2020 for people to vote against Trump. Now that is mostly gone, there's nothing that draws them to her. Nobody voted for Joe Biden. They voted against Donald Trump in 2020. Now that dynamic is gone, and there's no reason to vote for her and not much of a reason to vote against him.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Erik Estrada, and I'm Gary McNamara. The Atlantic was the best one that I saw. They did the trifecta, which was Trump. Trump is talking like Hitler, Lenin, and Mussolini.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, well.
It's like no Chairman Mao.
I was going to say, didn't they leave a few out? Wow.
I mean, it's just, it's got to the point of they're trying to rehash all the stuff that didn't work. Who was it? Scott Jennings. It was one of the anchors on CNN.
Yeah.
And did you see her going, and Trump and the bleach? This is how crazy the bleach. And he said, that wasn't a true. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. No, it was not.
No, it wasn't.
Complete made up. I'm like, oh my God, they're going back to the bleach.
You know who? Which big evil that the Atlantic didn't mention? Dick Cheney. He's all yours.
You can't. Trump would be just like Dick Cheney.
You can't use that one anymore. Sorry, that card is no longer in the deck.
And you're seeing in the latest, since that all came out, you don't really see much hype anymore about the Cheneys anymore.
No, you don't. It's all but gone.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Erik Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Erik Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. I'm doing this from memory, but one of the best posts I saw on X yesterday was back in 1932, Hitler went and worked a day at McSchnitzel's restaurant, which helped propel him to chancellor and then dictator of the Nazi movement.
Yeah.
In Germany. And there's a picture beneath it of Hitler in an apron with burgers and fries. I'm like, oh my God. But I mean the panic that you have seen, to bring back everything that hasn't worked shows right now even the media supporting Harris is completely and totally intellectually bankrupt. They have nothing. Listen to this. This is on CNN over the weekend. This is Scott Jennings with a few of the hosts and guests on CNN. Here we go.
Yeah.
Faster if Donald Trump hadn't been the president is a total rewriting of what happened, but whatever.
He denied the science, Scott. So
I'm sure the virus cared very deeply what he said.
He took the vaccine in secret while telling everyone else to inject bleach. I'm sorry, that's not leadership.
Also debunked, but go ahead.
You can't deny the actual bleach commentary.
It's been debunked.
He said it in public.
Oh my God, it came out of his mouth, Scott.
This is like hands up, don't shoot.
If it's working, or if they think it's working, then keep doing it, I guess, is the approach. Over and over again. But they're still telling the Charlottesville lie. Kamala Harris used it at the debate. Again. But
what was the other one that Harris used the other day when we were on vacation? She used something else. There was something else that she used.
Yeah.
I'm trying to scan here to see if I can find it. There was something else that she used the other day. I don't know if it was when she was being interviewed. By the way, the interview with Brett Baer.
Oh.
It was like, our newest ad just dropped. It's the whole interview.
Yeah, exactly. It was so horrible. It was so bad.
I'm trying to think what that was. All right. Well, and until I find it, let me play this audio here.
All right,
because there's a ton of other audio. This is MSNBC. Just so you know what's going on now. Now it's to the point where not only white men are fascist, but now black and Hispanic men that will vote for Trump are also fascists. We went through that with Joy Reid earlier. Now, here is some of this critical thinking analysis coming from MSNBC analyst Mara Gay.
Is actually for all men. You know, I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. I go to therapy. That's great. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that rather than allowing this kind of drift toward this faux masculinity that we see Donald Trump evincing.
Yeah.
Why are so many, I know, count them on one hand, but I know probably in Hollywood, 6 or 7 actors that are conservative. None of them are going to therapy. How come so many actors and media personalities that are liberal are in therapy?
Well,
that's not a political question. It's an observation that I've seen.
And they seem to like talking about it.
Yes, they love talking about it. And you made a great point when we talked about it off the air. You said, well, because if you're going to therapy, then you're a victim.
Well, if they're talking about it, going to therapy is one thing. But they like talking about the fact that I was talking to my therapist the other day, and it's like they're looking for an opportunity to mention that they're in therapy.
Yeah. And that gave her credibility. She believes that gave her credibility in saying that men need therapy because they're voting for Trump.
Right.
God help us. What about the women that are voting for Trump?
Right. Oh, no.
What the hell's wrong with them? I mean,
we'll get to that. I'm sure it will come to that. They'll address that this week. Right?
Well,
you saw it with Hillary, though. Remember years ago when she said, well, women just vote how their husbands, boyfriends, or bosses tell them to.
Oh, yeah. What about Mark Cuban over the weekend? The audio cut, it's a little bit low, but I have the quote. Kamala is struggling with young men because their social media algorithms show them things like football, which draws them to Trump.
Mm.
At what point did he lose it completely? When did Cuban just lose it? You think about it, there's a problem right now with a significant portion of the ownership of Dallas teams. Even if he only has a minority stake in it now. By the way, that the Jerry Jones comment at those 2 radio announcers, we know one of them very well, R.J. Choppy.
He's a good friend.
He's a good friend,
Great
friend
guy.
of the show. Great guy.
But also very good at what he does.
And doesn't take cheap shots. When I saw that, and I contacted him and just said, you got our support.
When it made the New York Post, I thought, oh, man, I probably need to see if just send RJ a message. Hey, buddy, what's up?
Yeah, I messaged him late last week and immediately got back to me. And then yesterday he wrote to me and said, I don't even know where I am.
Yeah.
This thing has blown up more than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
I don't have time to write back all the people.
Everything. Yeah.
And I just,
it's insane.
You got back to me.
But they weren't out of line for asking those questions.
Well, they were asking after that annihilation last weekend.
Right.
I mean, look, the one thing, and again, I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan, but the one thing that I know, and I tell this to other fans, like all my Bills fans, I go, you don't understand. Dallas Cowboy fans, they just can't stand that Jerry Jones will not give up the general manager position. They feel he's not qualified.
Right.
And, since he has taken that role of general manager completely, they're like, where are the playoffs? Where are the Super Bowls? And the question basically was, and every Dallas Cowboy fan has asked it, what the hell is Jerry Jones doing during the offseason? And they signed Dak to that kind of money. Why did they do? I mean, those are just the normal questions that every fan is thinking. He simply asked what every fan is thinking. The only good thing is I think most of the media in the Dallas area came down on Jerry Jones for that. But
right.
It was because basically he was implying that he could get them fired from their jobs.
Yeah, it was the way he responded to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I'll just get somebody else to answer or to ask the questions, and
but I tell you, that's one of the problems that and it's not them, it's not RJ, but one of the problems is, if you see in sports now today, so many of the actual sports announcers and analysts on the local level work for the team.
Yeah.
They don't work for the media. They work.
Yeah, a lot of people may have been surprised when they read about it or saw that story. Based on his response, they probably were learning for the first time that they actually work for him.
Yeah.
By the way, I find it kind of ironic that when Jerry Jones is asked about picking the right people, he responds by saying, I didn't pick the right people. Am I wrong?
But that one of the things is you have so many, especially on the local level, not national as much. But on the local level, you see a lot of these, you see more than you've ever seen before, these so-called media reporters that actually work for the team. And they're part of the press conferences and they're asking the questions on there. Now, I've objected it from the very start because I used to, when I was a station manager, I had people that worked for me that did sports, broadcasting and sports analysis. But almost now you look at the NFL. It used to be where those announcers of the NFL, of the games, used to be independent and work for the radio station, that covered it. They worked for the radio station. Now, I think the vast majority in the NFL all work for the teams.
Yeah. Which is pointless.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself...
That's not the case with RJ, though, or in this situation. But my point was, I think they get used to a lot of softball questions that come from those people that work for them.
Well, my thought was, if Jerry doesn't want to do that, then Jerry can just go on and host his own. He's on twice a week with them, but he could go on and just host his own segment. If he doesn't want to be in that situation.
But Cuban, I wonder if that's why one of the reasons he gave up is because he wants to go into politics. So he gave up the majority of the ownership of the Dallas Mavericks. Now, he made a tidy little sum from it.
Yeah, it was a pretty good
But
chunk.
the fact is he's losing it completely. I mean, he's absolutely losing it. His explanations are just as poor as you can possibly get.
And we ask ourselves what could turn in the tide for the Democrats between now and Election Day. I don't see anything. But what can turn for them after Election Day? What changes after reality is hit so hard?
This is a great point. I forgot who made it last week, that the Democrats aren't going to change.
I don't see them changing.
But the reason they're not going to change is all the money, the vast majority of the money. You think like Soros, for example. They support all the insane ideas that the public doesn't support it, but the major money that supports the Democratic Party comes from millionaires and billionaires that believe in these insane ideas, and the money's always going to talk. And as long as that money is there, the Democrats are not going to change.
And
now,
just like Jerry Jones, you gotta say what the money is saying.
Yeah. Well, but
That's
eventually,
very similar point.
But eventually, if the public has had enough with it, because I think one thing that the public now has realized is they're just sick of the BS.
This is what I had. It's interesting, and I think now it's a couple months ago. Really, it was the observation that I made that. We're doing our own fact checking, but it's even beyond that. we're okay with certain BS. When you get down to the core BS of what's going on in people's lives, the border, which is part of national security, the economy, not being able to afford the things that you have to afford, roof over your head, food, national security, and then the radical leftist transgender movement that has them coming for your children. All these things are, and higher crime, all of these things combined are very disconcerting. All of them are, because it goes to your, look, you want to be safe within your four walls, know you can pay for the roof over your head, you want to know that the border is secure, your neighborhood is safe, and that people aren't coming for your kids. These are all of the very core survival principles, and the left right now is working against that. That's a problem. That's bigger than reality. You're now messing with people in the worst and every worst possible way.
And the public has accepted BS from politicians as long as it didn't affect them.
And now they're BSing on those core items. You want to BS about this or that promise about something in the abstract? That's one thing. This kind of reality, you're messing with their lives, and that they're not going to take.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and your air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Make sure your tires are ready to roll through winter with the following maintenance tip. Underinflation is a leading cause of tire failures during winter because when the temperature drops, so does your tire pressure. Check your tire pressure before every trip to ensure they're properly inflated and to get the best footprint and traction on the roads. Conduct daily visual tire inspections to make sure you haven't picked up harmful debris on the road. Find a trustworthy tire service provider today so you'll be ready as the seasons change.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Erik Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara along with Erik Harley. All right, just off the beaten path for a second, and then we'll get right back to it because we've got so much to say about what happened in this entire campaign, the poll numbers, everything else coming up. One of the best answers ever given by an American politician on climate change. DeSantis last week. Reporter asked him, when will the words climate change come out of your mouth? Here's his response.
The chance of me virtue signaling for people in the media is zero. So do not count on that. I don't subscribe to your religion. And it's just a tired refrain and song and dance. I get you have an agenda. I understand that. I think you should be more honest about what that would mean for people. Taxing them to smithereens, stopping oil and gas, making people pay dramatically more for energy. We would collapse as a country. So this whole idea of climate ideology driving policy, it just factually can't work. And so in Florida, our energy is going to be affordable and reliable. That's what you're going to do. That's the only way you can adequately respond to things like we just saw with the storms to get people hooked back up.
Yeah. You know, this is, I think, going forward, we've always seen it as the only approach. But we see it from people like DeSantis. We see it from J.D. Vance. We see it from Trump. We see it from Byron Donalds. We see it from Ramaswamy. A very direct answer, very blunt. Nothing. I'm so done with and I haven't seen it in a while. But the establishment type answer. Well, when we consider blah 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 blah. You know, Newt Gingrich sitting down with Nancy. You need to call your representatives. This is years ago. You need to call your representatives and tell them your concerns about climate change. No, I don't. Bye, Newt. I don't need any of that. because I don't need to play this game. You feel like you need to. No. And as a voter, as a citizen, as an American, I'm done with that kind of dancing. I'm done with those establishment answers. And I was really pleased to see this year the Republican National Convention stage, prime time, was filled with people of that kind of caliber. It was not establishment Republicans with the same tired, going further left establishment answers. That was a great answer by Governor DeSantis.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Erik Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I got to tell you that, by the way, download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. When our show's over, it becomes our podcast.
And thank you.
Yes. And you can listen to our podcast all throughout the day, as I told many people who said, but you're on so late at night. You can listen to our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We understand.
Yep.
A lot of people sleep during this time.
Yep.
A lot of people don't. But a lot of people do. I just... And again, you're in when I'm in show mode, which means you're in that same pattern each and every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your references are all the same. When you go on vacation and you travel, your references are a little bit different.
Yeah.
And to see those references being different, but the message is still the exact same, to me was like, wow. Because you get an idea of what's actually out there, you know, what people are actually saying.
Right.
And so there's a different reference point. And when the message is exactly the same and has been about Harris almost since the very beginning, you know you have trouble. And when the campaign started going after Trump and saying he's cutting back and he's exhausted, when that story came out, the story, was it Politico that had that one?
Mm.
Number one, it has no meaning. Nobody cares.
Right.
Number two, you can't say that because everyone knows you're the one that's not campaigning as hard as he is. And number three, which is the same as number one, nobody cares.
Well,
it doesn't go anywhere.
There was there were a couple of stories, that one and another one while we were out, about his age, about Trump's age. And I thought, that's going nowhere.
No.
That's moving no needle at all in any direction. It's not. What you're seeing now is the liberal activist media firing off all cylinders from the playbook that's been, they've been using forever. And there's really no way for them to stop doing that. And the more desperate they get, the more you're going to see that.
And the surrogates aren't helping at all. Let's go to yesterday.
Yeah.
Because it's just shaking your head going, can somebody sit... By the way, I'm saying this. I'm not frustrated at the way the Democrats are promoting it. I'm trying to relate. If I was a political analyst and you hired me to work for the Democrats, I'd say, you've got all this money. You're spending more money than Trump. Couldn't you ever have sat down, even if it was the first week of her campaign, and say, what is the specific message going to be? But here's Josh Shapiro. All right, the governor of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
The guy, well, if this guy was vice president or the vice presidential nominee, He would have been able to articulate better.
Uh-huh.
Here he is on Meet the Press.
Polls do show that more Americans feel as though President Biden's policies have hurt them rather than helped them. So can you name one key policy difference between Vice President Harris and President Biden? How would her administration look different?
You know, I've been really encouraged by the amount of energy that Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, has put into focusing on how she will cut taxes for small businesses. The focus on child care tax credit expansion, that's something I've done here in Pennsylvania. We've seen that work to ease the burden on families. I think a focus on those kinds of things is particularly important, and those are the kinds of things I think Kamala Harris has brought specifically to this race.
Those aren't necessarily differences, though. They're an expansion or a tweak to some extent to what's been done. Can you name one policy difference?
Well, listen, again, the contrast I am focused on, Kristen, is between her and Donald Trump.
Polls.
They
can't answer the question.
Just can't.
All right.
There's just nothing there.
At least Bernie on CNN answered the question.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So I know you know this, but in addition to the Green New Deal and Medicare for all single-payer health care and ending fracking, in addition to those being positions that you hold, Vice President Harris used to be with you on all three of them and now is against you on all three of them. Is she making a mistake having reversed those positions?
Look, Jake, I think what we're seeing is a coalition of people, more establishment Democrats and progressive Democrats, and progressive independents, I'm the longest serving independent in American history, come together with the goal of defeating a very dangerous candidate, and that is Donald Trump.
There you go. We'll say anything to beat Trump.
Doesn't matter. Remember he said, what was it, a few weeks ago, she was being pragmatic?
Yes.
That's the new word for lie.
At least he was being honest.
Yeah.
I did like this audio that came out when we were on vacation, though. I did save this one.
All right.
All right. Just to let you know the mood right now of the Harris campaign.
Yeah, that goes over well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You know, it seemed there had been some coaching to temper that. You could tell, like, when she sat down on The View, that she was trying to hold that in. And I thought to myself, what do you say if you're the campaign coach and you're coaching the cackle out of her? You're saying, listen.
Coach the cackle out of her.
We got to talk about your cackle. I know you come from a long line of cacklers. You were born into a middle-class cackling family. But it's not working for you right now. Maybe later it'll work for you. Maybe it worked for you before. But we got to do away with the cackling. Let's work on that. So I'm going to turn on a big red light and shine it in your eyes every time you cackle. Ready? Go. I mean, what do you, because it seemed to have disappeared for a while. And I thought, well, that's by design.
Well, that interview, as you noticed, you saw immediately the surrogates come out. What a great job! What a great job!
Yeah,
what a great job!
Right.
But never did anybody give a specific of where she gave a great answer and what that great job consisted of.
Well,
what it was you had Trump, Flacky, Brett Baer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That this is what they were saying. You know,
right.
that obviously was rude. And I will say this: the best thing to come out of this, because you and I have done this for years, And it's one of the reasons I know when I did a solo show, during the day, and you could get guests on, I didn't get a lot of repeat guests.
Got to hold their feet to the fire.
I held their feet to the fire, right? They
don't let them get away with it. You got to stop them. And Brett did that.
And I would stop them, and people would say, "You're interrupting." Yeah, because they're not answering my question. We finally gotten to the point because we've always been told it's disrespectful to interrupt a politician.
Right.
Nobody ever talks about the fact that if that politician is disrespecting the audience and not answering the damn question and attempting to filibuster, that it is a requirement of the reporter or the interviewer to say, well, I'm going to stop you there because we've heard that answer, and that answer is not an answer to my question. It may be an answer to some question. I want an answer to this question. And then you'll ask it again, and then they'll go into this whole thing, and you'll say, you're still not, but I'll be getting there. And then they'll filibuster for 10 minutes, never answer the question, and you're out of time.
Yeah.
I know that I didn't want to deal with that anymore as a talk show host.
Right.
I don't care whether it came from a Republican or whether it came from a Democrat. I didn't want, or an independent or a socialist. I got to,
independent socialist.
Independent socialist. Got to throw that out for Bernie Sanders. If I ask a question, I want it answered. I'm not here for you to give me a non-answer. Don't waste my time.
Right.
There's this thing this like sacred thing that you don't interrupt the politician. The hell you don't. If they're not answering the question, you interrupt them. They're supposed to be answering the question. You're not coming on my show to filibuster. I'm going to ask the question, and I expect you to answer. I don't care whether I like the answer or not. Just respect me and respect the audience and answer the question. And finally, I think the public has finally come around to saying, the reporter was asking a legit, you're not answering the questions. You're not answering the questions. You're not answering the question. Answer the question.
Yeah, and I think Brett Baer did a great job in that interview of doing the interview, the more like I think people want to see. I don't think it serves your audience. I don't think it serves the American people. She, as it stands right now, is a public servant and wants to be a public servant for 8 more years. She works for the American people. She's the one that should be respecting the interviewer with a direct answer to the question.
Right.
You didn't hear DeSantis dance around it before. He told you why he's not going to. He gave you all the reasons why he's not going to say the words climate change. The core reason. I don't subscribe to your religion because it is a religion with them. With her and with pretty much all of them on the left, the reason we know why they can't answer it directly. That requires them either telling the truth, or, admitting they were wrong. They're not going to do that. But there's something missing in a big way from how she's answering questions now or dancing around them in these interviews. And it's bizarre.
You were asking earlier, why in the world would she have done that interview? What did she expect to come out of it?
Right.
The only thing I could think of, and it doesn't make sense in my mind because I don't know what it would be, I think she was looking for some type of viral moment that she could use and say, I defeated Fox News and Brett Baer on this one. She couldn't do it.
Right.
Otherwise, they would have brought the moment, and it was poor, even though afterwards you had the surrogate saying, she was great, she was great. If she was great, there's no way the Trump campaign would have put out the entire interview and said, the latest Trump campaign ad.
Right.
And so they couldn't name it. All they could do is demonize Brett Baer as another, I guess, fascist, Nazi propaganda, Goebbels reporter or whatever.
Yeah, pro-Trump. I saw that a lot.
Yeah,
He's a guy who is practically a surrogate for the Trump campaign, all that. Yeah.
So it was, that's the only thing I can think of because it doesn't make sense. I don't know what she does now. And they're going crazy over the dumbest thing, all the surrogates.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban trying to parse out. I don't know if you saw this on X. Well, okay, this money that Musk is offering random to sign I can't find anything legally wrong with it, but there might be something legally wrong with it. We need to get the public doesn't care.
Right.
Public doesn't care.
Right. No, they don't.
The McDonald's thing. The McDonald's thing. Trump set this up. It was staged. They closed down the McDonald's. Well, of course they did. Of course it was staged. Everybody knows it. You can't bring somebody like Trump in with Secret Service and have normal operations go on at the restaurant. That wasn't going to happen.
2 recent assassination attempts. That's all you need to know.
Right. He did it to send a message out.
Right. It was staged. Yeah, we know that.
That Harris was lying about working at McDonald's.
Exactly.
And she didn't come out and say, no, I worked at McDonald's. Here it is.
Right.
They believe she lied. They're calling her on it. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. There's so much going on, and we've got all of it coming up. The latest polling out there, and more. The freak out of the media, also, which is going to get crazier the next 2 weeks.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, I got to relate this story.
Yeah, what do you got?
When I was flying to go see Dad a week ago Friday, and I took the night flight night flight, like 7:30, gets in at like 11 o'clock, 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was delayed a few minutes, whatever, and I'm making my way there, and of course I've got my, noise reduction headphones on, right? We all have that, right?
Right, yeah.
That way you can just keep out all the sound, whatever. I get up there, can see my group, get in line, and, right when I get there, and boom, and I'm looking around, I have my headphones on, I take half of one off just to make sure I don't miss any messages, from the gate attendant.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I see all these people, like, paying attention to, like, the person behind me, and I'm like, can I have your autograph? Can I take a picture? Everything else. I'm like, well, what is this? What's this? I wasn't really paying much attention. I turned around and I went, that guy looks like Erik Estrada, from Chips, the actor from Chips. And so, a couple of people, you're just chatting as you're waiting in line, and he was chatting with somebody else, and so I took my headset off. I go, it does look like Erik Estrada. And all of a sudden he looks at me and he says, man, I'm exhausted. He goes, but I'm never going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, me neither. So he started talking about, retirement and everything else. And and he said, you heading to Buffalo? And I said, yeah, to go see my 98-and-a-half-year-old dad. And I said, you heading there for business? And he said, oh, yeah, the Nickel City Comic-Con. He goes, Larry's going to be late, though. And I went, at that point, oh. And I looked, I said, oh, you are Eric? He goes, yeah. Larry Wilcox, who was going to be, and William Shatner was there, and it's, the Comic-Con.
Wow, it's a big one.
Yeah. And so we talked about all the way down there as everybody's trying to get, can I take a picture? You know, people coming out of the line, walking up, I take a picture, do whatever. And we're just talking about retirement.
Right.
You know, but whether we'd ever retire. And I said, well, you got me by a few years, don't you? And he said, he's 75. By the way, his teeth look great for 75.
No, you sent me a picture, and he looks great for his age.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's aged much at all.
Yeah. And I just, you know, with people, I don't care who I think I'm the same as you. I've never been impressed with celebrity.
I'm
impressed.
Other than myself, no. No, I enjoy. I'm curious about their work.
Yes. Or
what their day is like. But I'm curious with a lot of professions. I'm curious about what their day is like.
I said the same thing to him that I said. Remember when we interviewed Donny Osmond?
Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, look, you know, I wasn't really into, you know, Sweet and Innocent. You know, I wouldn't expect that you would have been.
Right.
I said, but I always admired, said, how you reinvented yourself. And so we got into and the jet bridge was a little long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just took a little long, probably 5-7 minutes to get on the plane. And we got into talking about retirement. And then I said, wow, you've really had to reinvent yourself. You know, and he could tell I wasn't like doing it in an insulting way, like, if you've ever followed Scott Baio on X, oh, you can't find another job. Oh, you can't find another job. You can't find another. You know, people are just harassing him, and he seems like the nicest guy, but he always bites. And it's like, Scott, you don't got to defend yourself. He said,
right.
I saved all my money. I don't have to work, but I am working. He's doing a couple of movies now,
right?
Apparently, but he knew that I wasn't saying it in a derogatory way. I was saying, wow, you really had to reinvent yourself. So we sit in the plane. He's in the seat in front of me. So the plane goes by. You know, time goes by. Maybe we have an hour and a half left in the flight. He gets up, goes to the bathroom, comes back. You know, it's just standing right in the aisle, and everybody knows it's him. I mean, the entire plane knows it's him.
Right.
And he sits there, and he just, you know, turns to me and he says, "So." And he gets in. He goes, "I'm just so exhausted." We get into a conversation. He stands over me for an hour and a half until they said, okay, everybody's got to take your seats. And we had a conversation for an hour and a half covering everything except the fact that, wow, you're a great celebrity and it's great to meet you.
Yeah,
you know, everything was about how did you do this and where do you make money here and how do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he really enjoyed it. He enjoyed those kind of questions and was asking questions about, you know, how do you do it? How do you work, you know, overnights and what's, you know, shift, you know, how do you sleep? What are your sleep shifts? I had a high.
Mm-hmm.
I had an adrenaline high going, just how interesting the conversation was. And the fact that here he is 75 and he's like, I can't stop working.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. And then there are some things I won't say because the public things or whatever, because I didn't say off the record.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually went into the money that he makes to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he says, you can't believe the money that I make to go and do what I've done on the plane. The one thing he did say, and he was public about it, he just didn't say it to me, he said it to other people, because the people around were really, really generous. And they said, how is it to be a celebrity? And he says, it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started talking, when he started talking to me, he said, like, doing this, he goes, it's part of the job. I'm not saying I don't want to do it. It's part of the job. You accept it. And I said, yeah, but it's been a half century for you. I said, it's been a half century.
Yeah.
And I said, and you were in. You think about it, how popular he was at that time.
Oh,
when
it
was 77 to 82 or something?
Yeah, it was the show. And because it was a cop show, my dad, you know, we were watching it every week.
And I said, you were. So I'm not saying you're Tiger Woods, but you were at that level.
Yeah.
I said, you were at that insane level of celebrity. He goes, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and he's doing it 50 years, exhausting.
Yeah.
He goes, absolutely exhausting. He goes, but it's part of what you do. And he said, what am I going to do? And one thing I didn't know, he is a real cop.
Yeah, right.
He actually works right now for a police department. I think he does it remote, but he works for basically exploiting and missing children.
Yeah.
He was the one of the first leader of DARE. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I found out how he, his father, I didn't know, was a drug addict.
Right.
He's been public with that.
Yeah.
And then he left, and his mother married his stepfather, who was a police officer. That's what got him interested. That's why he wanted the role on Chips, because it was about a police officer. And so he wasn't somebody who became a police officer or became an actor that whose role was a police officer and said, okay, I'm going to take that and jump into doing stuff in police work. He had a great interest in police work. That's why he took the role.
Right.
But the thing that impressed him the most, the last thing I said, because we walked all the way down to where he had his driver and I was going to pick up my car. So we walked all the way down, to the baggage area. And I said to him, normally I say congratulations on, anybody I meet who's really fascinating and interesting. Congratulations on your success. And I said, congratulations for loving your mother, because we talked about our moms was one of the biggest conversations.
Yeah.
Everything he did, the reason he went to Hollywood, the reason he took that job, everything he did was to make sure that his mother could move out of where she was and into a nicer home, and he could take care of his mother. He goes, that's why I really did everything.
Right.
He goes, that drove everything.
Yeah.
Making sure my mother was taken care of and was able to move out of Spanish Harlem, to quote him.
Yeah.
So wonderful guy, just wonderful guy to meet, the most down-to-earth guy. But at the same time, you're talking the most down-to-earth guy who was one of the biggest television celebrities of the 70s and early 80s.
Oh, yeah. No, it was he was the face of that show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I would, in fact, no disrespect to Larry Wilcox or Chris Pine's dad. I forget. Is it Robert Pine? Who played their boss.
Or Caitlin, who replaced him.
Yeah. But without him, that show wouldn't have been that, wouldn't have got that kind of notice. It just wouldn't.
One of the biggest things we had, remember how James Garner fought with the producers to get the money that he wanted to get from the Rockford Files? That was the mentor for Erik Estrada, was James Garner.
Yeah.
He talked about how much, and he said he left because we talked about negotiations, in business and how you do it. And it was fascinating about when he, renegotiated with Chips, he got the money, but then they basically let him go. But then they hired him back again.
Right.
After Caitlin really didn't work out.
Right.
People may not know it, but Bruce Jenner took his spot.
Right.
But he said, I got the money.
Yeah.
He said, I got what was owed to me. And he said, the thing is, he said, it was the producers that wouldn't pay him what he wanted. But the deal was with the production company, and I forgot, was it ABC that carried it? I can't remember who it was.
I think it was ABC.
But the deal was between the producers and the network was that in order for them to get that kind of money, Erik Estrada had to be on the show. So he knew that. So he knew they had to bargain.
Well, no, I mean, he knew his bargaining power. He knew his leverage. And he was, he was one of those. He was the one on that show.
He was it, yeah.
That had that leverage.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you could have replaced anybody else. I like Larry Wilcox as his partner, and it would have been different if you would have changed that dynamic, let's say, after the first season or whatever. But it wouldn't have been the driver that drove people away. He brought people to that show. He was the star.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
It was one of those great moments of, like the first time I met Buck Taylor from
right.
He was a fan of the show, and it was like I know. I was like, the guy looks familiar. Walks away, and people are like, do you know who that guy is? It's one of the best well-known character actors in the history of all movies and TV.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. My father loved him. I forgot. I didn't recognize him.
Right.
I knew him when he was young on Gunsmoke. But, But yeah, so it's always wonderful to meet people who have done things, and you get into, all right, what was behind it all? What was your motivation? What were you thinking? How did you do this? Those are the things I love talking about.
Yeah, I'm curious about the work, all different types of work. You know?
I mean, that's why when I wrote to you, I said, here's the conversation was on this, and this was great. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
But there you go. I figured I would just let everybody know because I put it on Facebook, I think, the picture of me and him.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the plane. So, and that just happened at the last second.
Right.
I wasn't going to, because normally I'm not an autograph person. I'm not a picture. I'm a shake hand, have the conversation. That stays with you for life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To me, it does. But we got into the thing, and it was like, what the heck? Take a picture.
Yeah, why not?
So
we
were actually just, what happened was the jet bridge, when we got to Buffalo, was taking too long. So we had like 10 minutes to sit there and go, okay, take a picture. Nobody's in a hurry.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
But it was great. All right, latest from the polls. The polling is out. The latest polling is out. That more coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Erik Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. Turn the microphone on. I was off a week. I didn't know where the microphone button was.
Yeah, there it is. It's right there.
So, yeah, I'm fascinated of what the next 2 weeks is going to be like. Trump, and none of it has to do with the Trump campaign because we know what Trump's going to do. You know, the left went crazy yesterday about the whole McDonald's thing. Well, you know, they closed it down and Secret Service was there and it just wasn't normal people coming into the restaurant. Well, it was normal people. You had to be screened by the Secret Service if you were there, but odds are you were a Trump supporter if you were there and going through the drive-through.
Yeah.
But it was hilarious. It was actually hilarious to watch.
It actually, to me, it came off as a parody-like moment.
Yes.
Because he was making fun of her claims, but actually he looked like he would be right at home managing a McDonald's.
He said, I like this job. It's not bad. I might be back.
Well, there's the other thing, too, is remember in the past, I mean, and it's legendary now, the stories of, and we've seen it on the campaign trail, him eating McDonald's, having it brought to the plane, the stories of someone at the White House when he was in the office, having to actually go late at night to McDonald's and get burgers and bring it back.
Yep.
You know, so we know he's a fan of McDonald's. We know he eats the food. And here's the thing. We know everybody knows it's staged. We know it's staged, but he looked at home even though it was staged. Remember what was it, a month ago or so? Kamala walking in to the store trying to pick out some Doritos. And it was just pick up a bag. Just pick up a bag. Any bag. Just pick up a bag. It looks so awkward. And there he is, wearing the apron. He's doing the fryer thing. He's got the whole thing. I mean, it was great. I thought it was awesome. Because it made so many points. Let's see if I can find Ben Shapiro a few hours ago put up a quote. His own. He's kind of having fun with it. And so it's a picture of Trump at the drive-through handing the bag to the customer, right?
Oh,
and then
it, yes.
Yeah, and then Shapiro writes, and this is Ben's writing here, and that's how I stopped crime. The Hamburglar, bad rough guy, died like a dog. That was a great. It was so funny.
Should have put it in the meme form.
Yeah, it was a great post, but the whole moment had that funny feel to it. It was supposed to be done mocking her, and it came off as a parody, and also came off as, damn, I think he could do that job. Without even flinching, I think he could walk in, and the store at the end of the day would be more successful, even outside of him being a celebrity. It was a good moment. It didn't look awkward. Everything she does, it's all contrived. That's a given. It's like when they say, "Well, it's only done for political purposes." Do you know what we're doing here? Do you understand what we're doing? What's wrong with you? Get out. But it is that, okay, yeah, everything is contrived. Yes, they shut it down. They had to screen the actual customer, but it still didn't look awkward. She can't do that in any setting and make it look natural. She just can't.
America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Erik Estrada, and I'm Gary McNamara. This is just hilarious. Reading Mark Thiessen here from X on the New York Times article that, Trump is lying about her not working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And he goes, this is biased even for the New York Times. McDonald's has no record of her ever working there. The Times has found no one who worked with her or employed her. It's the only blue-collar job she claims to have had. She does not mention the job in an early resume at the time.
Right.
She does not mention it in her memo. No friends except one say they remember her saying that she did. The first time she mentions it publicly during the 2019 campaign. All of this proves Trump is lying.
Yeah.
They clearly put the investigative resources of the Times to prove she worked there, but they couldn't verify it. Yet instead of reporting that, wrote, Trump is lying. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And somebody writes, Social Security and income tax records live forever, and a look back at her Social Security earnings would show exactly what she made and when, but you can't look at that, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the lie that that's going to move needles, but it's part of an entire charade that she has built. That's right along with I was born into a middle-class family. I was raised in a middle-class. She's trying to look like regular people. You know, what's interesting here is I heard while we were out last week, they kept using the words, well, these elitists, and Donald Trump, and he hangs out with people like Elon Musk, and they're elitists, and they're elite. These are people that are actually connecting with real people.
Yeah.
It's the billionaires that are actually making and this has been the case with Donald Trump. they will tell you that he connects with the construction worker that works on his buildings a lot better than the people that are in the boardrooms. And that's just the way it's always been with him, they say. And the left hates that. It's by the way, it's also why they loved him before he ran to become president. The left loved him for that. They loved having him as a guest on talk shows for that reason, because he just was very blunt about how he felt, the political beliefs and things that he has believed for decades that he espoused then. You know, other countries, our allies, need to pay their own way and that kind of thing. Connected with people, and it's why they had him on. Because there was that juxtaposition of him being the successful billionaire while being while being able to communicate with a regular person.
How should that story have been done by the New York Times? This isn't complicated. We asked the campaign, when did she work at McDonald's and what McDonald's did she work at?
Right.
That's who you ask first.
Yep. Right.
And it's very simple. I can tell you right now, when one of my first real jobs, Dunkin' Donuts as a senior in high school, where I cleaned the toilets, Delaware Avenue in Kenmore, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly where it is. I could point it out to you and it's no longer a Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know what it is anymore. I don't know. I haven't been down there in a couple of years, but I know exactly where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked there 73 and 74. So 51 years. She supposedly worked at this McDonald's in 83.
Mm-hmm.
You remember exactly where you work.
9th Street Food Store, 9th Street, Wichita Falls, Texas. It was Affiliated Foods, owned by Anthony Wooten and his wife.
Yeah.
And I worked there from 82 to 84, part-time.
Yep. Jerry Myers owned mine. A former pig farmer owned Dunkin' Donuts. I mentioned it when he died a few years ago on the air, because he's the one that told me he always started out his sentences with, "Hey there. Hey there, Gare, stick your hand in the bowl, the toilet bowl, and scrape everything out with your fingernails. It's not clean enough." You don't forget those jobs. You never forget those jobs. You don't.
Right.
And the fact that she didn't immediately come out and go, he's lying.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at it at this time. I worked at this specific location.
Because it's often something that you reference it throughout your life, especially when you get to another career field. You know, you move on in life, right? As you grow older, you earn more money, and you say, I'll never forget when I used to, and that's where it was. And you reference that over and over again, and you end up telling a lot of people along the way that you know and or work with.
I can tell you every bar that I spun records at.
Mm-hmm.
I say records because we were still really records. Now, I think we have some CDs.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you every single one. You know, the Stumble In.
Yeah.
Harvey and Corky's Stage 1.
Mm-hmm.
Harvey Weinstein. Harvey was part owner of it.
Mm-hmm.
The Rickenbach in East Aurora, New York.
Yeah.
My 2 weeks at the Port Shark.
Right.
That was the disco I worked at for 2 weeks. That I was only filling in for a friend. And after they said they wanted to hire me, but I had to wear the new attire of their new uniform of leather pants, silk shirt unbuttoned down to the navel with a gold chain and a shark's tooth at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to stay there. And Honey's in Niagara Falls. Remember how Remember when we talked about honeys in the parking lot?
Mm-hmm.
That's where Spitzer got caught.
Client number 9.
Client number 9. That's where they got, yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do I remember it, but the places I've worked at have gone down in history as important geographical spots.
Yeah, right.
But you don't forget those. You don't forget it.
Well, because you will repeatedly reference them again as you make your way through the career.
Yeah.
I look at my time at the grocery store. I still do love the idea of grocery stores. You know, what they represent. Because especially like in cold weather in Texas, and it gets really busy. When they say there's going to be a dusting of snow, people act like it's the blizzard of 77 in Buffalo, and they run out and they take everything off. They buy everything off the shelf. But I loved the moments of working in the grocery store, having to show up before school, actually, and unload trucks at 4 a.m. on Tuesday. And the assistant manager, Steve, who had to show up and do that with us because Anthony wasn't going to do it. And he would always buy us donuts, you know. And then we had to, finish unloading the truck and go straight to school. You know, those are things that stick out in your mind. Those early days of learning, how to earn money.
I can't tell you where I had some of the places. I've forgotten some of them, but I can tell you where I first bombed majorly in stand-up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
The Comedy Trap on Hurdle Avenue in Buffalo, New York, managed by a comedian called Airborne Eddie.
Yeah.
Who, when I was bombing on stage, total silence. The only laughter you heard was him in the back of the room.
Yeah.
That's how bad I bought. So right. I mean, our point is these are the things that you remember. You remember those things when you worked at a fast food place because you use that. I know that working at Riley Gear in North Tonawanda when I worked there, when I worked at Worthington Compressors, also known as McGraw Edison Worthington Group. You never forget these things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When I was a United Steelworker and worked in machinery and stuff like that, you don't forget that because later on in life, people come up, especially when you're in radio. Well, you're in radio. You never worked for a living.
Mm-hmm.
We would get that when we would have union discussions in the past. We don't have those discussions anymore.
Right.
Now that more union members see our side, and
right.
even many of the union leaders see our side
right.
more than the other side.
Right.
But you don't forget it. You don't forget those things. They're benchmarks in your life.
Well, because it's also that starting point effect of, okay, what did I learn in those moments while I was there? What did I learn to do? What did I learn not to do in those moments? Those lessons stay with you. And, it was, for me, it was, all right, you got to show up on time, even at 4 a.m. And that was only once a week that we had to do that. And I thought, you can't be late because the truck was never late. And you better be there ready to get that thing unloaded because that truck had to leave.
The story, and I told the story, and I mentioned this about a week and a half ago, right before we left, because I was having I had to get the new tree and bushes in because of the homeowners association, so they didn't complain. But the landscaper came out, young guy, 27 years old, American citizen, became an American citizen from Mexico, 27 years old, runs his own landscaping outfit, Jose.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about, and completely a Trump supporter, completely as conservative as you can possibly get. I mean, you look and you go, okay, this is what you want from legal immigration. This is what you want.
Right.
Absolutely loves the United States.
Right.
Loves it. Started talking about, the jobs he first started working and got into talking about the first jobs. My first one? a porter cleaning toilets and, making sure everything's scraping. You ever scrape bakery floors? You got to scrape it first, just so you know. Before you just don't mop it, you got to scrape it with a hand scraper. And I talked about, getting that job and getting my first $13 check and being the happiest I'd ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like somebody was willing, even something like, again, a porter, a janitor.
Yeah.
Somebody paid me, my check was $13. He stopped his crew and told them.
Yeah.
He stopped the crew, goes, you need to hear this story. Tell them it again. I go, my first job, doing this, doing that. I can still remember how happy I was when I got my first $13 check. And they were like, $13? Are you nuts?
Yeah. I remember mowing my first lawn.
Yeah.
And I remember the first few minutes of it going, all right, I get to mow a lawn all by myself. And then it hit me within seconds. Oh, crap. It's just me. I better get it right.
Yeah.
Because somebody's paying me to do it. I got $10 for the lawn, but I was like, oh, my gosh, I got to get it right. And I had the lady come out and look at it, is everything okay? And I'll do it again. And no, it's great. Here's your $10.
Because I don't look back at any of those jobs and look at it as demeaning.
Mm-hmm.
I look at them as incredibly important moments and benchmarks in my life. And when you do, you don't forget it.
Right. And nobody can remember her working at McDonald's. Right. Why is that?
One woman said, or one person said they remember her talking about
it. Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Erik Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Really amazing when you think about it. When you go back to 2020 and you look at right now, and you see the things that are unbelievable. You see where Trump stands in the polls right now, and how confident they are, and the clear panic that you're seeing in the media and in the Democratic Party. I mean, the pure panic when you've got Tammy Baldwin, when you've got let me see. Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, both releasing ads on Friday that include images of Trump.
Yeah.
To say, hey, he agreed with us or we agreed with them.
Right.
Slotkin in Michigan, same thing. Saying she wrote a law signed by President Trump, including President Trump in the ad.
Right.
Tester and Brown of Ohio doing the same thing. Distancing themselves from Harris is mind-boggling when you think about where we come from.
Insane.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Erik Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Erik Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading a couple of great editorials when I was reading to you about that prediction that Trump will win, and if Trump wins, then the left is going to melt down again, just like they did in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one thing that I look at right now is if Trump goes on and wins, and the indications are he will.
Yeah.
If the best pollsters from 2020, because I've not seen a Wick poll. Wick was at the top. So the top three pollsters, if you've seen that, from 2020, all show, let me just make sure I have this right here. Let me just see. I thought I had it here a second ago. Let me get it here. Was it Trump National? Atlas Intel, Trump +3. Let me see. Tip, Trump +2. I don't really count Tip. Tip was accurate, I remember, in a couple elections ago.
Mm-hmm.
But here we go. Tip, Trump 49, Harris 47. Atlas Intel, Trump 51, Harris 48. See if we've got, looking for it again, the national. There's another one. I was looking up before. Oh, and Rasmussen, Trump 49, Harris 47.
Mm-hmm.
+2, +2, +3. You look at those and you look at where the states are all going, all the battleground states moving towards Trump, whether he's in the lead or not, they're all moving towards Trump.
Right.
And the majority,
Right.
at least for Atlas Intel, he's got it. I just wonder where it all goes. Is this the last? Is Hitler, Mussolini, Lenin going to work anymore?
It's not working at the moment. I don't know why it would all of a sudden start to work. Again, we have to go back to the abstract versus reality, and also the benefit of time. The benefit of time has always been kinder. I mean, don't look now, but George W. Bush is best friends with Barack Obama's wife, Michelle Obama. And when he was in office, and for the first 2 years of the Obama presidency, you could blame everything on Bush.
Yeah, he was the first Hitler.
Yeah. And so then, you were going to get that, of course, in 2016, certainly in 2020. But then the time that we have been in since Trump is no longer, since he's left office, where the realities are hitting harder and harder and harder, you couple that with the benefit of that time for people to say, all right, wait a minute. I mean, it's not just, are you better off or worse off than you were 4 years ago? It is a direct comparison because Trump is running again, and he was the last president. And so those are the things that you really, I don't know if history, it may happen again in our lifetime, but it isn't typical of any presidential election where you basically have two incumbents, even though she's not currently the president. She's certainly part of this administration and has been, and if you have any doubts, just ask Joe. And those are the two types of comparisons you actually don't ever get. You don't get two virtual incumbents with such a short period. If it had been 8 years, I don't know what the difference would be. Without COVID, I don't know what the difference would be. But this is the situation we have right now that is completely unique in the history of presidential races.
I was going forward, I was specifically talking about this race. I was giving the hypothetical. Trump wins. It shows that the Hitler didn't work.
Well, I guess my point is to answer that question. And, are they done with would they keep trying to do that? I think that's the benefit of people looking back and going, well, he really wasn't Hitler. You could do that at the time, but George W. Bush, obviously after serving 2 terms, he couldn't come back and run again. But there was never, he was going away and he was no longer a threat. They were okay with that lie then, but the reality is that, wait a minute, the guy's not Hitler. It's all these liberals that have said, wait a minute, hold on a second. What did they actually say about him that was true.
Well, when you
Michael Rappaport is one of those,
Right.
who went back and said, I bought the lie.
Well, of course he's not in it. As you said, everybody can relate to 4 years ago. But I was thinking about this when I was looking at DeSantis's answer on the climate change. When the reporter asked, when are you going to start using the term climate change? He just blasted him. It was extremely blunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about right now, and again, this isn't about who's going to win in 2028, but it's about who the leadership is right now, the future of the Republican Party. And if you take two names out right now, you're talking about two of the people that are the best at explaining things. And I think when you see DeSantis against last year, when DeSantis went up against Newsom in that debate, and then J.D. Vance.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about those two individuals, which I view as the ideological leadership after Trump. All right? I'm not asking people to take sides of it. That's not my point. I'm talking about the movement, the ideology moving. They are extremely precise in what they are doing. If Trump wins, this is an election. And I think that you would probably have, I don't want to speak for him, but I think I'd be pretty safe to say that if you look at the campaign going on right now by Harris and how horrible it is what Rush used to say liberalism is, which is, what is it, imagery over substance.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, was that the term he used? Was it imagery?
I think that's
that's close to what it symbolism.
Mm.
Symbolism over substance. That was it. And that's exactly what you have. There's no substance to this campaign at all because nobody has any idea where the hell they stand. We actually do, but she's lying about everything.
Yeah.
So it's pure symbolism. And then the campaign backed off yesterday and, well, we're not going to expand fossil fuels. We're just saying we're not going to ban fracking. What the hell does that even mean? They're making statements now. It's like, okay, as we get closer, let's be more confusing.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be precise. We have to be the opposite of precise. But the fact is, people, if Trump wins, it shows that people want precise.
Right.
They want, who's going to solve the problem? What are you going to do? We knew it eventually had to come to this, but it came to this basically because of inflation, which was caused by government.
Right.
And the American public understands that. It comes because for the last, for 3.5 years, until they went, oops, this isn't working, the Democrats were saying the border was secure. We all know that was a complete lie.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was precise. Nothing was truthful in there at all.
Right.
It's all this gobbledygook of BS that nobody can make heads or tails out of. And it's like, whoa, why aren't we winning? Because you're not saying anything.
Right.
And because you can't, because the American public disagrees with you on the issues. That's fact. The reason that you have let me just get it. Let me just go back to this article here. The reason that you have Casey. Think about this. Casey is in his latest ad. He bucked Biden to protect fracking, and he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating. Casey's saying that about Trump. I agreed with Trump. Do you know where we were less than 4 years ago with Trump?
Yeah, exactly.
Tammy Baldwin got President Trump to sign her Made in America bill. It wasn't enough to say Made in America. She had to say, Trump signed my bill. I got the stamp of approval from Trump.
Right.
I mean, this is...
Not that we got it passed, not that we got it signed. She had to use his name.
Right.
And you had to do everything. If you were using his name as a Democrat 4 years ago, oh, my gosh. And this is my whole point on the whole toxicity thing and the luxury of time and also reality hitting. All their tactics fall apart, whatever it is. He's Hitler. the race card, everything that they have used is failing. And I don't know how any of it makes a comeback. I really don't.
I will say this. I am impressed by the number of Republican ads that bring up the radical transgender movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, boom, that has been stopped dead in its tracks.
Right. Yeah.
Politically.
Yeah.
And remember, it's mainstream approval from the Democrats in Congress.
Yeah.
99% of the Democrats in Congress support men playing sports against women and women not having their private spaces where men can come in and strip naked in front of your daughters. They are in approval of that.
Yeah.
99% of Democrats on the federal level in Congress agree with it, as does the entire White House, and that includes Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. They're all in favor of that insanity. Well, as we said, eventually, I think I said this in 2018, the Democrats eventually have to change. Now, if she wins, they don't have to change.
I think if she wins, in fact, it's a stamp of approval to keep doing it forever.
Right. That this is what the American public wants.
If they can win this way, then they can use it forever.
Right. Then they can never lose if they can win.
Right.
If they can win this election, it'll be like, well, then we can never lose, especially since she's run such a horrible, just incredibly horrible campaign. But if Trump wins and Republicans win, and you see the future of the Republican Party behind Trump are people that are precise and truthful about what they wish to do. Precise, truthful, and blunt as to what they wish to do. How do you attack them in the future?
Right.
When the American public disagrees with you. Remember, maybe it shouldn't be so shocking that all these senators are using Trump when Harris was trying to make the point that she agreed with Trump on every single major issue, but agreed with this president completely.
But it shows you, it is a radical move by Democrats that shows you that we were right about the toxicity being all but gone. And also the trend of what we're seeing. And an indication, I think, also that the Democratic Party knows the down ballot is everything. I really think they're extremely worried about the Senate. I think they are very, very worried about the Senate. And I think all bets are off now. You're seeing it.
That it could go to 52, 53, or 54.
Yep. Because I think at a minute, looking at it, my count right now is 52, and it could be 53, as high as 54. But how do you do that? Well, one of those is Tester, and the polls are nowhere near in his favor. Sorry, he's not going to win. Judging the polls, I don't see what would change in that election over the next couple of weeks. And now, as of today, early voting is countrywide. It's everywhere. So, I don't think anything is going to change. There's no tactic they can use. So they have to get desperate. Well, hey, we actually worked with Trump. Hey, it's okay. You can keep me. I won't be anti-Trump. Because they know he's going to win. That's what it tells me. If you think your team is going to win, you're not going to do that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log, general form and manner, and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But I wonder, and looking past this election, what happens long term. You and I've said about if Trump gets elected, even if they have the House and the Senate, it's going to be a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because in order to move forward through all of this, it has to be a mess. There's going to be infighting, especially on economic issues and things like that, how to proceed. It was a Miranda Devine, because apparently Trump was talking about over the weekend that police and firemen shouldn't have to pay taxes either.
Right. Yeah.
She's like, he keeps expanding it. Is anybody going to end up paying taxes?
Right. Exactly.
And I started thinking, he's forgotten one group. And this is the group least likely to vote for him. He should talk about no taxes for seniors. Now, this is about everybody out there who's a senior. This isn't about me. All seniors.
Although you're part of the seniors, it's not about you.
Okay. So it is about me.
Yeah.
all seniors.
And eventually it will be about me, too.
Eventually be for about all of us.
Yeah. Well, I hope.
That's
God
true.
willing.
That's true, because you want to get old.
Yeah.
I don't complain about my age because of the alternative.
Yeah.
But no, it's going to be on economic things. There's going to be infighting in the Republican Party. There's going to be big time infighting. Trump's not going to be able to get done everything that he's promising to get done. No president does. It's just impossible to do because of the way the system is, the way our system is set up, correctly set up. Things move slowly. But it's like, okay, but what's the next 10 years? What's the next decade going to be like? The Republican Party seems like it's pretty set on being precise about the issues where America stands. Democrats, we're insane.
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. You saw 60 Minutes put out the statement.
Yeah. They basically admitted it, saying, well, first of all, they said that their claim that former President Donald Trump is accusing 60 Minutes of deceitful editing of our October 7th interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. That is false. I thought, when I first read that, I thought, okay, were they saying we weren't trying to be deceitful? We were being pretty blatantly obvious about it.
That's what I thought, too.
and actually, the rest of the statement pretty much says that. It goes on to read, 60 Minutes gave an excerpt of our interview to Face the Nation that used a longer section of her answer than that on 60 Minutes. Same question, same answer, but a different portion of the response. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know. When we edit any interview, whether a politician, an athlete, or movie star, we strive to be clear, accurate, and on point. The portion, it'd be great if she tried to do that. The portion of her answer on 60 Minutes was more succinct, which allows time for other subjects in a wide-ranging 21-minute long segment. It's you're making it worse.
Yeah,
60 Minutes.
You're making it worse.
You
yeah.
just made it worse.
Tick, 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 tick.
Just
tick.
leave it out there for, and don't say anything about it. And then just blame it on conspiracy theorists. Oh, those crazy kids with their conspiracy
But they take
theories.
a week.
Took
a week.
They spent all of that time, and who knows, by the way, it was probably a dozen meetings with dozens of individuals to come up with that statement.
Well,
that's the best they could come up with.
Well, it's very simple. You're being accused of manipulating the video. The accusation from Trump is you manipulated the video to make her sound better.
Right.
Release the entire interview, release the entire transcript.
Why wasn't the clip that you sent to Face the Nation the same clip that aired?
Right. Why did you edit it? Why was her answer edited at all?
Why didn't Face the Nation want to be more succinct and to the point?
Right.
Face the Nation isn't worried about time.
All we're looking for is what was her answer, her full answer.
Right.
That's what we want.
Right.
60 Minutes won't give it to us.
Nope.
And then they say, you, for questioning them on it, you're to blame. Because trust us, we're the show that used to employ Dan Rather.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. We're the network that employed Dan Rather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, there's that. This is again, something we expect from the liberal activists at CBS News and everywhere else. But you just made it worse. You just confirmed because the thing that's what you don't explain, and we all know why. We know the answer. Why the cuts weren't the same on Face the Nation as they were on 60. By the way, if that had been the case, if they had sent over the short, to-the-point version to Face the Nation, and that aired as a part of the promo, them promoting it on Face the Nation, we still would want to know, all right, what was the entire interview? What were all the answers? Because we would suspect that it was still heavily edited. But it was the response from the cut on Face the Nation that just imploded. The whole thing was just, oh my gosh, it was horrible. And then all of a sudden, between airing on Face the Nation and the 60 Minutes episode, the entire answer changed to be something totally different. Well, why didn't you change it to be more succinct when you sent it over to Face the Nation? We know why you changed it on 60 Minutes, and it's because of the reaction that Face the Nation got.
Well, if you're saying it was a full 21-minute interview, when you played it, you would have they had a special edition on Monday night for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So take an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interview with her.
Mm-hmm.
You can cut it up into 3 parts and then comment on it in between.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can play the 21 minutes.
Well, they said 21-minute long segment. I don't know how long the actual interview is. The segment that aired, they said, is 20 minutes. I don't know how long the overall interview
Oh, okay.
was.
Well,
Yeah.
why not play the whole interview?
But Why,
I mean,
why would you put it online?
You're talking about a person, a candidate who won't do interviews. You get 60 minutes. You know you're going to get a big audience. Why would you not play all the answers to all the... Now, if you want to...
Send it to your parent company's streamer, Paramount Plus.
Right.
And say the entire interview can be seen unedited on Paramount Plus.
Put it on YouTube.
Yep.
What are you trying to hide? That's the point.
Yep.
Don't sit there and say... Because what they're doing is the old elitist thing, well, we did it for expediency's sake, and so we picked out what we believe was a... I don't want you editing it. Ask the question.
Yep.
Let me hear her
Whatever
full
the
answer.
answer is what
It's
it
her
is.
answer. They can't...
You're admitting she rambled is what you're saying. She rambled. We cut it down.
Yeah.
That you made it worse. Your statement made it worse. Your statement confirmed what everybody already knew. Way to go, 60 Minutes. Way to help. It's because here's the thing.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think it was a 21-minute segment on that question.
No, the entire segment they're saying. Not on that question.
Oh, okay. I thought they did a specific Monday night show for that, a special show.
I don't know. They wrote in their statement 21 minutes segment. That's what 21-minute long segment is what they wrote.
Well, that's the kind of interview she's been did with Fox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
well, look, Fox did it. We played the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They played it from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. Because I'd be very clear. However you answer is what's going to air.
What a novel concept. We can't have that.
Whatever you're going to do, you need to pretend this is live. We're not editing anything. You need to act as if it's live because we're going to air it as such, and we won't change it.
This thing, though, that it's for you questioning it, you're at fault. And by the way, Trump said, I always said I wasn't coming on because of the last interview.
Mm-hmm.
They had to throw in, well, he didn't come on. It's got nothing to do with it.
Right.
Why should if you selectively edit to make the candidate that you prefer sound better, then I'm not coming on your network knowing what you did to me last time.
Exactly.
They understand it.
You just admitted after saying they weren't deceitful, they admitted to being deceitful.
You know, I got to say this because I was on YouTube over the weekend and something came up and I went, what the hell is this? Karen's getting pulled over for traffic stops.
Hmm.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is we always ask, we go, why doesn't it seem like they're making any sense? If I went through, and it was the majority, they were all women being stopped who would not cooperate with police. You couldn't figure out why. They didn't make any sense. And as I'm watching this, I'm saying to myself, liberal, 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 liberal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The one was saying, you need to show me the radar right now. No, we don't need to show you the radar. You need to show us your ID. They had to break the glass of the window of this one woman. She wasn't drunk or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just said, I want it the way that I want it. This traffic stop needs to go under my rules and regulations. It's like, where the hell are you? What world are you? And I'm thinking to myself, you know, with the party that believes that a man can be a woman if the man says so, then you can sit there and go, okay, it's just what I think. What you think doesn't matter. What the law is doesn't matter. We're just going to do whatever the hell we want. And it was called Karen's. It's like Karen's and traffic stop. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't believe the stupidity of these people. I thought these videos were made up. I really did.
Now, I've seen some of the dash cams. One was a guy, and man, he was screaming and screaming and screaming. And then at the end of it, he admitted to being wrong for getting upset. And I just had a horrible day. And it's just, well, I can't believe that. Blah, 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 blah. It's all you, dude.
Yeah. Well, I guess there were no guys in mine because it was called Karen's.
Yeah, right, yeah. And it's the dash cam videos are, man, unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. And it was dash cam something is what
yeah.
Like I said, after 3 I had to stop watching. I couldn't watch it anymore. It was too embarrassing. I'm like, what world? It's almost as if these human beings are not really human beings. They were extraterrestrials that were put down on this earth and put into a vehicle.
Well, what I wonder is, do you really think screaming like a child like that and acting that way is going to have the officer go, oh, I guess I was wrong. I'll see you later. What do you think is going to happen?
I would assume that once the lights go on behind you, unless you fully cooperate, you're not leaving.
No. No, you're not.
You're not leaving in that vehicle that you came in.
Right. And if you do, you're going to have even more problems.
Exactly, yeah. But I was
if you want to challenge it in court, go ahead, challenge your accuser. You have the right to do that. But challenging it at roadside like a child throwing a tantrum will get you nowhere.
And the reason I brought it up, it was just in relation to the insanity of the left today that doesn't make any sense. You can't make any sense out of it. There is no critical thinking. There's no connecting of the dots. Mm-hmm. It's all pure emotion, rage, narcissism. What I want is what matters, not what the law is. Mm-hmm. And I really saw similarities when I saw that over the weekend. I may watch more of it when I'm in a better mood, but I was like, I can't watch any more of this. It just got to be ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I started thinking, but it doesn't make any sense to me. It's frustrating. There is no critical thinking. There's nothing there. Right. It's just pure emotion and rage.
And also, I want.
Yeah.
And I think it should be this way.
Right.
So it must be this way. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of where liberals live. The LA Times did something on, of all things, recycling and the wish recycling. Well, no, this pizza box only has one oil stain. They can cut that out. Do you know how it even works? LA Times is like, it goes in the trash. Most of what you're recycling is going in the trash because you don't know how to do it, and you think it should be one way, but it's not.
Yeah.
They wish these things. They think these things because they've been taught they get their way. Zero discipline in their life, most likely.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Erik Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Erik Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let me play this audio. I don't know if you can hear it well, but it's Trump at McDonald's, and he's making the fries.
Okay.
And he's shaking the fries now. He's taking over. He's in the back working in the kitchen. I mean, I know they closed it, but those are the employees still there. I mean, there's employees there.
Right.
It's the employees were there. Of course, they closed it. Of course, it was staged. It was like, this is all staged. Well, yeah Trump really isn't going to work at McDonald's.
Right. You know, it was so funny because, first of all, making fun of Kamala Harris and her claim that she worked at McDonald's, and then him showing that he could probably be the manager day one, walking in. He's competent and looked right at home. He's shaking the fry basket and the whole thing. He's got it down.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.